Welcome to the podcast, Fiona.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So I thought it'd be good if you could just start by telling everyone who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah, so I am Fiona, otherwise known as Attention Seeker. So I'm a social media consultant, and I predominantly work with in-house marketing teams as well as marketing agencies as well. So freelancer and consultant, and more focused on the social media strategy side of things. But I have I've worked in marketing and in agencies for over 15 years now. So I've honed in on the social media strategy side of it, but I still have the background knowledge and experience in marketing.
Yeah, well, similar to me, really. I worked for lots of different agencies before going on my own way.
Yeah.
But what was it? So you worked for marketing agencies before. Was it always in social media, or did you do other things?
Started in PR. Before social media was really a thing. Everybody had Facebook and social media was there, but it wasn't social media marketing.
Yeah, businesses hadn't jumped on it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I think brands started to be able to have Facebook pages and Twitter accounts, and it was kind of all to play for.
Yeah.
So like 2010, it all started to become social media marketing, and at the time, so I started off in PR, so fresh out uni, marketing degree, quite a typical marketing journey, I think. And my first agency was in Scotland for Grayling, and then after 6 months I moved into London, worked in a PR agency, and I worked with amazing brands and did sort of these crazy PR activations, sailed a few things down the Thames. Because, you're not in PR until you've sailed something down the Thames. And then just the way that, as I said, like with social media marketing coming in around that 2010 period, it was all sort of to play for. Does it fit under PR? Does it fit under paid? Where does it fit under? And with the agency journey that I went on, one of the agencies I ended up at was sort of more of an integrated digital marketing agency. So we did social, organic and paid. We did SEO, PPC, as well as traditional and digital PR. So we did everything. Yeah, and it was good. Some clients were just PR and social, some were paid, some are just paid. So there's a complete mix. So yeah, it was quite lucky. And sort of my last full-time role was as head of social, and I sort of niched more into the social media and integrated side of things. But yeah, for my sins, loved social media and honed into that a little bit more.
Yeah, but that's it. But that's interesting. What is it about social that you liked so much?
Yeah, the fast pace of it. I think agency life, it's not for everybody, but if it is your bag, then that variety, different clients, different industries, obviously, every hour is different, let alone every day and week.
I can empathise and identify with that for sure.
And it's great, and it's brilliant, and it's not for everybody. And I think social media is kind of, as an industry, as a sector, is very much like that as well. All the different platforms, every day is different. Instagram breaks, everybody goes on to X or Twitter, and it's just so fast paced. But the reason I really have always enjoyed it is because it is that one-to-one platform, like from a brand perspective. Organically, especially, obviously, you have the opportunity there to capture the attention of your target audience, like as they're scrolling on their phone or on their lunch break on their computer or whatever. So for me, it's a really good sort of playground, I think, for brands to test what their target audience is like and to capture their attention, to bring them on a big journey to whatever their business goals might be. So
that's interesting there. So you were talking about testing basically through social media. So would you say you use it as a kind of discovery tool for your whatever your audience is, finding out who they are, rather than because it's interesting, because I would have thought it would be the other way around. You identify it first and then you do the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the social media strategy side of things, you have to know who your target audience is, and beyond demographics as well. You have to really understand, what other brands they're engaging with, what are their lifestyle interests, all these sort of like niches that your target audience has. So to build a social media strategy, you have to understand your audience, but you should also use social media to test that and discover that. So you can set a strategy and say, we're going to just see what does fly over the next 3 months, potentially just test a strategy. Or if there isn't a social media strategy in place, you have an idea, you still have to know who your target audience is. And I'll just talk about completely random things, but I think what you can learn from social media and what people are engaged with can inform wider marketing strategies as well, and even things like tone of voice and does humour come into it? All these kind of things, and it can really inform other marketing activities as well. What's flying, what's not.
Yeah, well, again, so many parallels, I think, with social media, with websites and things like that, because you have your basic idea of what to do, but then you need to have the metrics and the data to see what's actually happening, and you test things and see what actually works. And so it's not just your own thoughts, you're bypassing your own biases to find out what actually has to happen.
Yeah, and even from a creative perspective as well, and a user journey perspective, like social media and the website of the brand or the company, they have to work hand in hand together and work really seamlessly and have the look and feel the same tone of voice, the same copy. So it all just becomes really easy for people to, whether it's through Google and they go to the website, or whether it's through social media, to then go and learn more. And then most brands tend to want to go to the website to learn more, make a purchase.
Whatever it is, sure.
So it works really closely.
So that's great. And so you were talking about one of the benefits, obviously, you can go directly to your audience or customer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But obviously with social media, there's so many people on it, businesses, just regular people, there's so much noise. So how would you kind of capture attention and cut through all that noise?
Yeah, I mean, that is a really big, and that's literally the $1 million question, I think, because there is, and it's not going anywhere, but there's so many platforms as well. So not only have you got to stand out, and like the stat is probably less than this now, but the last I checked, and certainly as it stood last year, you've got 2.7 seconds as somebody scrolling through their feed to capture their attention. And in 2.7 seconds, you can do a lot of scrolling. So you've really got to stand out. And that's where the strategic side of it comes from as well. So you have to understand, go back to target audience. What is it that they're interested in topics-wise? What's their kind of marketing 101? What's their challenges? What do they want? What's their desires? And how do they talk? You've got to speak to them. I always say my number one, the thing that I always say to any content creation teams that I'm working with, or when I'm creating content, for my client, you have to speak to them like you're speaking to them in real life, conversationally. We've got AI in the mix now, and it's so easy to just type in ChatGPT or whatever, like write me a caption for this, but you have to understand the target audience. You have to have ideally a brand tone of voice strategy as well, so that it's unique to the brand, but it's also conversational and something that your audience will literally stop scrolling for as well. And ultimately you've got to be in the right places of your target audience. It could be really easy anytime a new platform comes up for a brand to go, should we be on this? Threads came through last year. And secure your handle.
Yeah, well, that's what I did.
But if your target audience aren't there, don't waste resource. Or likewise, if you're still on Facebook because historically you've been there since day one and you've got a bit of an audience there, but actually you're getting better engagement on TikTok, then does it make sense for you to still be on those places, or or at least churning out the same amount of content on different platforms? So it always comes back down to the strategy of it standing out in that space. It comes down to creating engaging content. That's always going to be number one. And it doesn't matter if you post once a day or once a month. The way that the algorithms work now is that if it is engaging enough, and which basically comes down to a post, a single post or a reel, whatever it might be, has had more than just likes. People are talking on it. They're leaving comments. They're sharing it beyond this platform that it's in, so email or WhatsApp, Slack, etc. That all feeds in, it all tells the algorithm on any platform. We're talking about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Then it signals that that's a good post, and it'll start to be shown to more people, even if they've logged on 3 weeks after the original post was shared. So always make it for your target audience, and that's the crux of it. Is knowing them.
There's so much that answer was packed full of information. There's so much to take away from that, I think, and so much I want to ask you about. And to go back to one of the things was about stopping the scroll. You obviously get so many people advising and guru types who I'm sure are the bane of your life.
Social media experts. Yeah, for the record, there's no such thing as a social media expert because I'm kind of like.
But don't say that. You're on here for a reason.
I know social media and I hold into it, but I'll never say I'm an expert because I just don't think it changes too much, and I don't think there's anybody who says they're a social media expert and they know how to get you 10 grand a month.
Well, that's always the figure, isn't it? 10 grand a month.
10 grand, yeah. You're right, no.
Yeah, but you did mention AI, and that's an interesting, particularly within social media. It's obviously a big time saver, but it's also obviously very easy to spot sometimes. And I find if it's an English company and they're using American English, you can pretty much guarantee that's straight from AI.
Yeah.
But is it something that you use or would recommend to use?
So I use it because, as you can tell, I have a lot of thoughts. I just talk and talk. So actually, I use it to articulate my thoughts better and to make it. But then I'll still go in and refine it so that it is a human sort of voice.
So how do you actually use it to do that?
Yeah. So if, for example, I have a strategy laid out, so I've gone and done all the research. So we're talking about strategy first of all, but if I've gone and done all of the research and I've got all of the data from all the platforms, their engagement, their reach, their leads, their Google Analytics, and so I've got all this research, I've gone through all the posts, what's engaging, what's not working. The way that I work is I have a good old Word document and I put it all there and I structure it. And I start to put it into my slides or presentation, wherever it is. And then I use it to make my sentences more coherent, basically. Because I'm like, right, okay, so, the introduction, I've always been known as having wordy slides. That's always been my feedback.
Yeah.
And so now my slides are less wordy because I've got ChatGPT to just refine it. But I'll still say, this is my brief. This is what I'm here to do. And this is what the purpose of this task is. You need to support me, make this fit for purpose, make it more actionable, make it more valuable. Is there anything that I'm missing? And because obviously there's nobody else to check work, there's no team to write it initially, for me to check it, there's nobody at the end I use it as a bit of a soundboard and a kind of, checking mechanism.
Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you're giving it so much data and direction there, it sounds like. Yeah. So you're kind of really railroading it into doing exactly what you need to do rather than the vague post.
Exactly.
Kind of
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, even with content creation, some captions, I tend to not use it for that too much unless it's like tons and tons and tons of posts, and I'll put a content plan together myself, and then I'll say, okay, can you just make sure that this has the right. If I might have a mix of awareness, engagement, check this, and if there's anything, considering I'll put in like the brand guidelines, if there's any, can you take this on board? Is there anything that should be refined to make sure that it is on brand, that it is aligned with the strategy? So I still feed it with the brand guidelines, the strategy, the brief, and then it can check, if I've got a content plan that I've done, again, it's to check it, it's not to, I don't use it to create it. Yeah, no,
that's great. And I think that makes sense. And you're talking about standing out. You're not going to stand out if you're just getting AI to do it because it will be with that. Exactly.
Yeah. And even things, I think it's really obvious when something's written by ChatGPT, as you said, like obviously not just language, but the emojis that come in, like it's pattern. Yeah, I don't know. There's even just things, it just doesn't sound how you would if you were having a conversation. So the other thing with social media content creation and web copy as well is it has to be from that brand. So having a brand tone of voice, if you haven't got that, then that's fine. But you still have to have as a team kind of go, what's the key messaging? There's still got to be something that's unique to the brand, whether you have guidelines and strategy or not, at least having specific key messages, landing pages you want to direct people to. All of that is unique to the brand. Even if you're just saying, create me a post about events that are on this month, or about how to create most engaging social media, which there's billions of that out there. That's just going to be the same.
And I suppose it's just the same as people before were regurgitating stuff they've heard.
Yeah.
It's just a more efficient way of doing it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so you always want to stand out against that anyway. It's just the thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of of standing out, a lot of people will be very concerned about, should I be going viral? Do I want to go viral?
Yeah.
So I think about that and think it would be good. How can I actually plan to do it? Can I plan to do it? And is it actually worthwhile doing?
Yeah. But it can be a double-edged sword, definitely. But it depends on the brand and, your Nikes and your Pepsis and your McDonald's, Aldi's of the world, where they go viral, it's kind of expected and they'll do it now and again. Whether it's through a campaign that they've planned and you've got this fantastic creative or, sort of campaign messaging and it's been planned, or if it's a reaction to something that's trending. So, all the brands that I've just mentioned are brilliant, and Specsavers and all these, they react to things that have happened in the world of their audiences, whether it's sports or politics or, even harder news. Again, each of those brands, when they react to something that matters to their audience and they put a reactive post, an Instagram post or a tweet, whatever we want to call it, X, they tend to do quite well because people think, oh, that's funny, that's really tapped into something that's relevant and timely. But then that also comes down to those brands have a strategy because they know the kind of things that their audience are interested in. So like Paddy Power probably shouldn't tweet about hard news, but tweeting about sports and football, different horse racing and things like that, then that makes sense for Paddy Power to do that, but it doesn't make sense for them to go down other routes. It all comes down to the audience.
Yeah, I suppose there's that's all about speed, right, and reacting quickly. I suppose there's a risk as well with that. We've seen recently the whole "Where is Kate" stuff.
Yeah.
And I bet there's a lot of deleted messages going out.
Definitely will be. Yeah, I think even Blake Lively deleted someone that she was commenting on it, and that's a viral topic at the moment, which I hope brands have touched on that, because actually, do you know what, when she did her Photoshop on Mother's Day, there was a few funny reactions, and even locally around here we had I need to check who it was, and it was Kate Middleton's here with her children. It was photoshopped with the venue in the back of it. And I was that's funny.
Yeah, and that's very unlikely to get you into trouble with doing that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But going viral, obviously it is difficult, and I think especially it used to be kind of easier because Twitter was so much more in use and more popular, and now stagnant now, but it's still not as in high use as what it used to be. And obviously that was your sort of most popular open platform, whereas going viral on Facebook is more of a closed platform. It's difficult to do that. But going viral, I think it's also depending on the sort of industry, the market that you're in. It can be even from a sort of personal perspective, like if the CEO or the marketing director or MD of a company starts a thought-provoking piece on LinkedIn, for example. When I say thought-provoking, I'm trying to say thought leadership, basically. But again, I feel like thought leadership is one of these buzzwords that's really popular now.
Well.
what actually is that? But I think it could even be, a CEO and MD, founder of a company, who then starts a conversation on LinkedIn about a particular subject, and all of a sudden 2-3 days later that particular post has maybe got thousands of views and tons of comments, then that's viral, and that's great because then you're starting conversations.
I suppose it's not what people tend to think about though, is it? But it is.
That is still viral. Anything over a few thousand, again, it depends on the industry, the sector, and things like that, but you can be viral within your sector, and it doesn't have to be the brand. That can also be the people behind the brand.
That's an interesting point about being viral within your sector. So you may not make any waves outside of your own bubble, but as long as you're reaching the right people, which comes down to strategy. But maybe it's saying earlier.
Yeah, and that it really is the most important thing. What's the point in posting something that's completely not relevant to your clients, customers? And then if you, on top of that, then have conversations on those posts with those people, then that's viral. That's job done. You don't need to go viral. That's what you want. That's
the right kind of viral.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not worth jumping on any old topic that's just popular. it needs to be relevant to the business and the overall strategy of the company.
Yeah, exactly. Like, be thought-provoking or add a bit of value, insight, something that's actionable, makes people have a discussion about it, and then you're sharing other thoughts and conversations within that post. And that's what you want.
That makes perfect sense. And that takes me to a question I had around, there's all kinds of different metrics and ways to measure the success of a campaign or a single post.
Yeah.
And I wondered what that would be. So, because obviously people used to go mad about followers, but that seems to have become less of a thing these days.
Yeah. Follower growth still sneaks up, but I always say track it. Obviously, you want to track where you are at the start of the year or start of a campaign, implementing a new strategy. So track it. And for example, if we're doing monthly reports, which is sort of your average way of reporting for most brands, and certainly something that I recommend and do. So you can have a table of followers and how much that's growing or not growing by month on month, and you can see. And ideally, you want to have a nice steady growth. You don't really want to be having peaks and dips and things. That shows that your strategy isn't working. If you're just staying nice and getting really good follower growth, that's fantastic. And I think if you can get spikes as part of a campaign, like Black Friday, for example, and Christmas and competitions and all those things, we'll obviously see a big spike in followers. But follower growth, if you look at those examples like Black Friday competitions, you kind of tend to get followers that are in it to win it or in it for a promotion or something like that. Whereas you want your followers to be there because they enjoy your content or because they're going to become a customer or they already are and they're going to, again, depending on the brand, if it's a one-off purchase, you still want them there for engagement purposes.
Yeah.
So if they're ready to make a purchase again, then they are, or they can recommend you to friends and family. All of that really all comes into the mix, depending on the brand or the service or the product. But metrics, there's so many different ones that, as you said, that you can touch on. So sort of standard ones, organically, reach, engagement. But then things like click-throughs, if you want to go to a specific landing page, that's a really good KPI you want to put through. Leads generated, which you can do on LinkedIn with a lead generation form, and you can obviously back that up with a paid campaign as well to specifically generate leads. So traffic with GA can all come into it. It depends on what the objective is, but say we're talking sort of a standard social media strategy where we want to raise awareness, then we want to reach the right people. Engagement falls under that. And then if it's new leads or if it's conversion, sales, traffic, then we can look at what those KPIs and those metrics should be. But even engagement is interesting, I think becoming more interesting at the moment. So it's always kind of been the case with all social media platforms that meaningful engagement is the KPI. And what that basically means is more than just a like. So from a social media perspective, the most important engagement metric, I say, is comments, saves and shares.
Okay.
So comments is great if you want to, so we're talking about sort of have conversations in your posts and you're getting the attention of your target audiences and there's obviously interest there because they're conversing on it. But if they're sharing it, you can't track where that's going. You can't say, oh, that's been WhatsApped or that's been sent in a Slack or that's been sent via a DM. But it still indicates that your audience is like that. So if it's an event that you've posted about, or if it's a funny meme or something, it's engaged them. So that's really, really crucial. And save as well. So it's something valuable, clearly, that you've shared that people will come back to. So, it could be how to get more leads on LinkedIn, but then if it's a really valuable post, then that's being saved and that's great. Or
so you would consider, so saving is engagement then?
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Interesting because I would obviously you've got likes and comments. I would never have thought of saving as being engagement. I suppose it makes sense.
Because it just means they've saved it to come back to at a later stage. So that it just shows that it's been useful or valuable.
I guess in some ways that's like a even bigger signifier because you can comment on any old thing, but if you're saving it, you want to definitely read that post again and again probably.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely seeing like on social, because it's just been especially since the pandemic, it's been really busy on all social media platforms. And as you said earlier, there's just so much noise.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to do more like digital detoxes or be less visible, but they're still there.
Yeah.
They're just going into like what we call dark social, where they're sharing it and taking themselves away from the platform, but they're still there. And so I think brands now, they're paying attention to saves, comments and shares.
Interesting.
Like that's a really good indicator of your content doing well.
So are those, obviously those are like engagement metrics. So we kind of talked about growing followers and engagement metrics sort of separately.
Yeah.
But so things like people have said a lot, particularly on LinkedIn, as a strategy to grow your account, to do lots of commenting and you'll reach more people. Is that like a viable strategy? Would you say, is that good advice?
To be focused on comments. And I think if it, from an engagement perspective, and especially if thought leadership is a objective. So say, you take a brand and we want to increase our thought leadership in whatever topic and subject or industry that might be, then you want to then take a step back and look at the target audience. What is that? Or what's the challenge in that industry? What's something that we can viably create new content around, whether it's a report or a survey, different sort of gated content, downloading white papers, all of that kind of stuff. Then that's where it's beyond social media, but social media is your vehicle to share off that content, and you can start to sort of drip feeds, sort of sneak peeks of that content and get conversations going. Even before you start that kind of campaign, you could use social media to gauge what people would be most interested in or what their challenges are. Sort of taking it from a sort of report or a white paper campaign and obviously there's so many different aspects to that campaign, but you could use social media to inform the kind of things that should go into it. You could even use polls on LinkedIn as well, which you could add in, say if obviously you get enough responses and depending on the industry, but you can use there's so many different features that you can use in social media to inform a campaign or to share a campaign or all of those things.
I suppose that's quite interesting because it's for me anyway, I always forget that there are all these tools like polls and things like that. Yeah. I'm thinking post, comment, maybe a carousel.
Nice PDF document.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Yeah, there's so there's so much, and with video as well, as we know that we saw TikTok and it started off as like 3 seconds, 7 seconds. We're now at 15 minutes. 30 minutes I think is now coming in, if not for all brands, but it's like, so who knows, we've gone from all this short form video to long form. We've got single
that's
images.
What YouTube did, right? They started off with time limit caps and expanded. It'd be interesting to see how that works on TikTok. Yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and then again, is video the right format? And video gets shared on LinkedIn, and it often does well if it's the right video, since it says the right thing. And there's so much, and obviously just text only. Even people don't tend to share that much more. But if it is just a quick, say again, an example of like a CEO and thought leadership, and coming with kind of like giving the CEO certain prompts and training on LinkedIn, for example, and just giving them some key messages to share. But ultimately, it has to come from them. But if they've just had a thought, literally, and text only is absolutely fine. It's still a viable content format. It's just.
Well, I suppose maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume it's quite good to have a mix of content, so it's not all the same stuff all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that comes from the strategy. So whether it's a wider marketing strategy and you've got social specific content, or it's a social media content strategy, then definitely having a mix in different formats. And again, when I was saying earlier about testing, that's another big part of it is, you could, for example, have a blog and we want to then share that on LinkedIn or Instagram. You could then take the excerpts from the blog and put it in as a kind of text into a carousel, or you could have just one image and condense the blog copy into sort of a short form capture of some emojis and things thrown in. But I would also say do both, obviously not too close together, but then you're going to see what has worked better. So just taking that example of using existing piece of content and then repurposing it in social, we don't really know until we've tried both ways of to see what the audience is engaged most with. And or it could be video as well. But definitely having a mix of content is good, and there's nothing wrong with repurposing content. So if something's done really well, then you don't want to always be creating new content. You just want to be always sharing the right content and making it go further. Yeah,
well that's the thing, isn't it? With social media, you post it and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But I do think from my lurking and browsing on social media, it does seem that more people are kind of starting to reuse older posts and things like that, and which makes perfect sense, because it's like you've spent time into creating something for it to have an effect one day and then it's gone. There seems to be no reason why you can't reuse it, especially if it's been some time has passed and you've got more followers and you've got a new audience.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the things where that works really well, especially is like team introductions. So if you want to sort of like, if you have a team who want to get the people behind, or brand ambassadors, any sort of people associated, whether staff or influencers, content creators, like people that are working with the brand, then you don't want that to just be like one drop in the ocean. Like that's kind of evergreen content mostly, where it should be, created and then shared for as long as it's relevant.
And repurposing, as you were saying before, it seems to me that that's a must, because there's so much pressure to come up with content, and people are saying, I'd be interested to know what you think about this. People say about frequency of posting. People say to post every day. People say to post multiple times every day, which seems impossible when you're shaking your head, and I'm glad you are. so you disagree with that advice?
Yeah, because of all that you're doing, if you're posting multiple times a day, you're competing with your own posts. So you should really leave your posts. I mean, for me, once a day I wouldn't do any more than once a day. I'm always a big quality over quantity. So whether you're posting once a day or once a week, then I would much rather see a brand put out something once a week or whatever it might be, with the purpose of like, because then you want to be sharing out things. Don't just share things for the sake of it. You want every post to do something, whether it's just reaching new people, engaging them, driving them through to the website, or a lead form, download something. That everything has to have a purpose. And if you're just trying out posts, and it's fine to, I think it's great to be reactive and to not have something planned every day, and to react to something that's in the news or in the world of your followers that you can jump on as long as it's relevant. But quality over quantity every time. So I don't think there's any, and I certainly don't abide by any like have to post it twice a week or anything like that. Like figure out what works. Obviously you can look at that, and obviously there's like specific times. Taking LinkedIn as an example. At the moment, some research came out in January where 10 a.m. on Wednesday is a good time. There's good times to post every day, which are kind of common sense. I'll be at lunch times, the commute on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
6 p.m. on Instagram during the week is mostly active, and that's great. But as I said earlier, like the way the algorithms work is if you posted something 3 weeks ago and somebody's logged in for the first time, or they're just having to scroll through the feed, if it's a really good post, if it's helpful, insightful, something good, and people are engaging with it, then it will be shown in the feed 3 weeks later. So quality over quantity, and it's good to know what time your followers are active. I think platforms like Instagram, where you can do stories and then it appears at the top of your feed, and obviously Facebook now as well, but then that's really interesting to know, okay, our followers are on at 6 o'clock, and then you can do some stories, because then it's going to be at the top of their phone, when they're on Instagram. But otherwise I would focus on the quality of the post, not just like, oh gosh, it's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, we haven't got anything to post, what we're going to do. Just don't do anything.
That's the news everyone needs to hear. That everyone wants to hear. Stop pressurizing yourself.
Definitely. I think one of the days of posting every day, don't post for something.
Good. Well, I'm glad to have that advice.
yeah. And like sometimes I'll post even, and it'll be in reaction to a new platform feature or something coming out, and that's the reaction, and something that I go, actually it's helpful for my clients to understand that and to know that. And often they do the best because I've not sat and created this beautiful carousel about the 2024 trends that you need to know about, and that's fine. I'll pin that to my profile for the rest of the year. And then it's there. But most of the posts, I'm just me, but most of the posts I do that are reactive tend to do better because they're relevant to
we're providing good information that's valuable to people. It's
hopefully.
Just the nub of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense. And they're kind of that topic, you maybe kind of touched on some things there, but what are some things that people are doing wrong typically on social media?
Yeah. So, there's two. They're quite different things. And I think one is a personal pet peeve of mine. And it's become more popular, I'd say, over the last year or so. But everybody cottoned onto the hook. And it pains me. And I am guilty
the hook
of...
and the rehook.
Oh my gosh, honestly. And the amount of times I've clicked on see more and just gone, why have I given that post? That really annoys me. And, like that hook, it is important. Like, you've got 2.7 seconds, so that first couple of seconds in a video is crucial for them to watch the rest of it, whether it's real, YouTube, whatever. That caption, if it's a long caption and you need people to click on that see more button or read more button. So that hook, it is really important, but the ones that are really obviously clickbait, like, you have to make that first sentence or that first couple of seconds relevant to the rest of the post. It just, please don't use clickbait.
So you've got to deliver on the promise. So it's less the issue of using the hook, it's more using the hook and then having nothing of value to follow that.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And you want to sort of give a little, like, whet the appetite a little bit so that people want to read more.
Yeah.
But then they're happy that they have. They're not going, oh no, why did I click on that?
Yeah, I've been duped.
Yeah. And then the other thing as well is, I still see brands in general are getting so much better at seeing the value of social media. And obviously I'm a champion of social media, so I'm going to say that. But it's still used as like a broadcast platform for a lot of brands, and it shouldn't be. It's social media. It should be reciprocal. We should be having conversations, asking questions, giving them the opportunity to interact. And, if you don't have that as a brand on your page at the moment, then that's definitely something to focus on. It's not done overnight. No brand should be disheartened that nobody's commenting when they've asked a question. Eventually, you keep doing that, it will. But yeah, I think when I see brands just post and go quiet, and if they have actually got comments on a post, and trust me, I've worked with a few brands recently, and the community engagement is just not there. And you've got people asking, it's out of stock near me, or where can I go to find out more, or can you do this in a different colour SKU, or can you tell us more about so and so, or a business, and it's just tumbleweed. And so you have the other sort of thing.
So is that clients asking them and they're not responding?
Yeah, so the brand is not responding to customers and clients on social media. They're just leaving it, and I just think, God, that's a wasted opportunity.
So it's a completely one-way communication.
Yeah, and it's not. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, like you're saying, that's not social, is it? At all?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, imagine if you just asked me a question, I just looked over there and stared into space. Like, that's the equivalent of.
We should try that for the end.
Just stare. That is what it's like.
Yeah.
It's the online version of me just staring in space, not looking at you, not answering your question.
Be ahead of an hour.
Yeah. So
that is kind of surprising that in this day and age brands are still doing that.
Yeah.
You would think that's like the bare minimum you would expect is for people to respond.
Comments. Yeah.
So people, what about this then? Because there's that's asking just general questions which you would think would be answered. But people also kind of use it as a way to kind of complain at the brand.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, that can be tricky, how to respond to that kind of thing. So I wonder if that's something you could say to that.
Yeah, so that's important. I mean, again, obviously it depends on, the product, the service, the brand, but that's why it's really important to have community management guidelines if there's a need for that. So just leaving a sort of stock responses, which you would then tailor, so hi, Mike, thanks for your question. And if you don't want that platform to be a customer, and it's just not naturally going to be a customer service platform, you want to take them offline and drop us a direct message or come to this web page and my FAQs web page, for example. So just having community guidelines, because it depends on the resource as well. So if it's a sort of one-man band, who's doing all the content and the reporting and posting, then my advice is to have set times so that it's sort of, nobody's going to say, oh, I've seen that they're on at 10 o'clock every day, but you just start to see that there might be 12 hours between a reply on some posts or however often is possible. But having sort of just a guideline and a process in place that somebody's checking in at the same time every day, or making it clear that they're not around bank holidays and weekends, things like that. And then when it comes to, if there's questions that keep coming up, then have a guidelines where you've got, what the response of that should be is approved. You're not going to get yourself into trouble as a community manager.
So that I guess helps with answering quickly to have the listings in place, which is also key with any kind of customer service issues. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and obviously how big or small that is depends on the brands. It can completely vary, and obviously as we know, like the huge product brands, or even McDonald's and Aldi and things, they become a customer service platform because you always get it's really easy to be a keyboard warrior and have a disgruntled customer there, but being able to quickly react to it with the right response, no matter what it is the right thing to do. Yeah, and then you get some brands like Ryanair who can make it into a big joke. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's their strategy to piss off their customers. Yeah, they know that you can do it. So it's actually quite funny sometimes. But it's just like you were saying, it's that's their identity. Yeah, they had one. That was a couple of months ago where somebody had tweeted or whatever, or put on Instagram. They were sitting next to what should have been the window seat, but without a window. And Ryanair just reposted it, with like an emoji face, because like crying emoji, because it was like, well, we are buying our plane, you bought it for a penny. It's like to stay for £5. Yeah, exactly. Like you can do without a window. So that's their attitude and that's their brand voice. It's brilliant. Yeah, and that's amazing when they've obviously got that strategy nailed and they know exactly who they are. Yeah. And so it must be freeing for people working for their social media team to be able to do that. Like the law team. Probably not so much. No, they probably had a few restless nights over the social media team. But if you're of that size and scale, you need to get your lawyers involved. Yeah, well, I'm sure I've got plenty of lawyers ready. Yeah. I know, and I'm pretty sure they're all on the same page. So that's fine. Yeah. Well, if we were going to kind of summarise your kind of basic rules for a good social media strategy, what would you say? So my rules for social media strategy, I think number one is it always comes down to the audience. So know what you want from social media. Number one, is it awareness? Is it sales? Really have that bigger picture in mind, but understand that there's a journey to get there as well, and it has to be as seamless as possible, and it all has to be focused on your target audience as well. So you shouldn't be making it sounds really. I don't know. It sounds like not controversial, but it might seem a bit uneasy. But you shouldn't actually be posting about your brand or your product or your service all the time. That comes into the mix, and so and I'll say that 80% of your posts should be not about you, not about your brand, but about something that's engaging to the audience, that's helpful. You can still talk authoritatively about whatever industry you're in or the challenges that your audience are facing, or that you understand them, and things like without having a sales message behind it. And then that other 20% can be, here's our latest offer, find out more about this service, this product, whatever the call to action, that kind of real
sort of hard KPI is. But everything, it has to come down to what your audience are interested in and getting to know them and being in the right, like the social media strategy side of it as well as the platforms. So again, that comes into your audience. Where are they? If they're not on Facebook, you don't have to be on Facebook. You know, you can have a presence there, but you don't have to put resource into posts, because if it's just churning things out and nobody's there. But if you're, you know, TikTok now, the demographic has gone to like 35 to 44.
Yeah, it's getting older all the time.
Yeah.
It's
great. Yeah. I don't know where the Gen Z lot are. No, I don't know where the Gen Z lot are going, but I mean, they're like, it's just, you have to look at where your audience are as well. So that comes down to what platforms you're going to be most active on, what you're going to be sharing, what the kind of awareness, engagement, conversion journey looks like. And KPIs and reporting, making sure you're keeping an eye on that. And because it's social media and it changes so ridiculously often, you know, making sure there is a reporting and a checking in of that so that you evolve the strategy as well. So, you know, I always say start with a bit of an audit. So whether that's a complete social media audit or just an annual report on like what worked well, what didn't work well, and truly understanding that piece of it. And then so you can continue to evolve, you know, look at if there's other new platforms out there, if there's new features that you've not tapped into, like content formats, etc., which there will always be. And you could even, you know, look at, we're talking about content repurposing as well. So if there's a new content format or a new platform, so you can kind of get started a little bit quickly, use what's worked, you know, but use a piece of content that's already performed really well, repurpose that in a different way. For the platform, for this new feature, just don't stand still and do it for your audience.
Yeah, amazing. So basically, know who your audience are, know what they like to talk about, and then test.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, sorry. It sounds really simple, isn't it? But
easy.
Easy.
If it was easy,
you can all go viral now.
Just listen to this podcast, you will go viral.
Yeah, that's it. I should that line.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Full of amazing information. But before you go, if you just want to speak to the audience, if you look at the camera and just tell them where they can find you and who you are and anything else that you might want to promote.
Yeah, well, I am on all the social media platforms, but the best way to find out more about me, and if you're interested in working with me, is attention-seeker.com.
Great.
Which I'll be making sure Mike makes look much better.
Well, that's a contract already.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been great.